Welcome to the Purpose Driven Mom Show, episode 387. We are here. It's 2024. So we're going to talk about one of my favorite concepts that helps really lead my goals. It really helps me get in front of what does alignment look like for me? What do I want to do with my life, my personal goals, and my business? And that is the concept of the word of the year. I hope you had a great holiday season. I hope you feel refreshed. We actually took last week off of the podcast to just kind of sit, give you some space, give us some space to get ready for the new year. And here we are. Now, there's a couple things that are probably going on. So I'm going to give you my New Year pep talk. I know that you're probably so excited. You're gung-ho. You want to do 8,000 things and you want to achieve every single goal today. But we know that's not the reality. We know that as we go into the new year, we know that as all these new goals get hit and we get so excited, stuff starts to fall off our plates because we're putting too much on our plates at once. Now, I'm going to do a whole episode on that coming up, but I wanted to just remind you that before you go into the new year, make 3 million goals and feel like you have to do everything, take a breath and realize that you get to choose which goals are aligned for you based on what we call the word of the year. Now, you can see behind me if you're watching on YouTube, and if not, head over to Purpose Driven Mom on YouTube to check it out. My word is focused for quarter 4. That is where I was at. I'm recording this in December. And so that was the word that kept me through. And I'm going to talk to you about how that looks, how to pick your word today, and what do you do with your word in action? Because it's one thing to get a word and put it up on the dry erase board, put it on your vision board to make it part of what you want to do. It's another to act it out and live it out. So the concept of the one word is simple. And there's a book that I can't remember the author off the top of my head, but it's called The One Word That'll Change Your Life. And the point of this is you pick one word to anchor yourself through. Now, I want to encourage you with something because after working with hundreds of moms in the Purpose Driven Mom Club, I've noticed sometimes people struggle with the concept of the word for the whole year. So feel free, like you can see on my board, I picked a word for quarter 4 because I needed to readjust it. I always start the year picking like one word for the whole year. And then sometimes with the quarter, I keep my word or I change it. You could have a word for the month. You could have a word for the week, heck, if you wanted to. So there's no right or wrong. There's no, black and white rule here. But what you're going to do is you're going to pick a word that describes how you want to feel, the person you want to become. And the way that I like to start this is with vision. I teach a 5-step goal process in the club and SOAR and everything I do. And the first thing we have to do is look at our vision. Where do we want to go? So before you even think about your word, what I'd like you to do is write some vision statements about how you want things to feel. A lot of times we do it the other way. We try to pick our word and then write visions around it. I want you to lean into your intuition. I want you to lean into what you want, and I want you to think about how things could feel. And so I like to break this into a couple categories. I do one for my family, I do one for my personal goals, and then I do one for work. Sometimes I will have a different word for work than I do for my home. So it doesn't matter. You can have one for every area of your life if you want. That becomes a little complicated for me. So I try to stick to one word for either work and one word for business, or the same word. This year I'm doing the same word. Now, write your vision. What do you want it to look like for you? What does success look like in your family, in your home? So I had a really hard 2023. Really hard. I mean, it really knocked me down. And as I'm going into 2024, I sat with this and I thought, what would it look like for me to feel success in my home and to feel success in my goals, in my body, in my soul, in my person? And that was a lighter approach to things. 2023 was incredibly heavy. We had a lot of family issues. My husband had lost his job. I got very sick in the first quarter of the year, like debilitatingly sick. And it really took me a long time to get out of that. And then as soon as I started to get a flow, I got injured in September. And I've been trying to recover since then. And then there's 8,000 other things, some relationship stresses, things like that have gotten thrown on my plate. It was hard. And I know what I don't want the year to look like. And it's what 2023 looked like. So I asked myself, what would it look like in my family? We would just have more fun together. We would have more time outside. That was something we really focused on in 2023. I want to continue that. More game nights, more date nights. My kids would do their routines a little easier, less prodding from me, right? There would just be more joy. We would slow down. One of the things I noticed in reflecting, which is the first step of the process, I already did my reflection for the year, was that the times that I felt the best, the highlights of my year, those came in the summer when things were light for us. Those came when we had less activities on our plate. So I want you to think through the same thing for you. What do you want your family to look like, feel like? Go through it with work. I love my job, but it was stressful for me this year. There was a lot of ups and downs, and I just feel like I wanted things to kind of flow differently in 2024. I want to switch some things up. I'm launching a new program at the end of the beginning of February. I want things to feel different. Same with my personal goals. I'm going to be 40 this year, so it's a big birthday year for me, and I'm really thinking about how I can reclaim some of the health stuff I lost, particularly after being so sick. I had back-to-back sinus infections. I thought I needed sinus surgery. I then got mono and was so incredibly sick. And then I've struggled to come back from that immune-wise, right? On top of getting super injured, I tore ligaments in my arm. I just did 10 weeks of physical therapy. Like, I feel really beaten down physically in my body. Like, I do not feel good. And I want this year to be a year where I feel better. So I want you to do the same. What's your vision? What do you want it to look like, okay? Then what you're going to do is you're going to take that and choose a word. Now, my word for 2024 is ease. And just feels lighter. Like, just even saying it, I'm like, oh gosh, that feels so good. I want things to have ease. Not that I don't want to work hard. Not that I don't want to go after my goals. I just need some pause. I want to read more. I picked up some crafts. I've been latch hooking. I've been crafting at night. Me and my family have been having less TV time. Like, things feel really nice right now, and I want to continue that. So I want you to think the same thing. What word describes how you want that vision to feel? Now, a lot of people struggle with figuring out the word. You can see, like I mentioned, Q4, my focus was my word. So here's what you can do. Here are some tips to picking your word. One is you could go to ChatGPT. So I really like AI for goal setting. And I know a lot of people are using it in the business, but I think it's a really cool tool that you can have for your personal life too. And so if you've never used ChatGPT, you could go over there, free account, and copy your vision. And so what I suggest people to do when I teach it, and I taught this in our 2024 planning, was you take this vision that you wrote, which is why we write it first. You want to go with your intuition. You want to lean on what you know. Don't just pick a word because organized feels like a great word. Productive feels like a great word. Those are great words, and they could be your words. But you want to pick it based on your vision and your life. I teach all about the seasonal productivity for this reason. We always think we have to just do what everybody else is doing. We think we have to, I must pick decluttering as one of my goals because everybody else is decluttering. But why, right? And so that's why I teach this seasonal approach that I teach in my programs. So I want you to go into ChatGPT, set up the prompt. I am a mom, right? You tell ChatGPT what to do. Pretend you are a mom that is trying to make a word to describe how you want the year to feel. Here is a vision that I wrote about that. And then you copy your vision statements, you copy your vision paragraphs into it. Please give me 20 one-word phrases to describe how this vision would feel. And I always say this, it's a start that stops us, right? So what's really cool about this is now ChatGPT is going to give you a bunch of words. Now, we did this when we did our end of year planning, and some of my members got really funny words that they were like, this really isn't it. That's okay. Not everything's going to be homeroom. It's a tool, right? It's the computer. It's not like a human brain. It's a robot. So what you're going to do is you're going to ask for 20 words, and then you're going to look at the words, and you're just going to ask yourself, how does that physically make me feel? This is ways I've learned to lean into my intuition, is like, what physically happens to my body? Can I take a deep breath? Do I feel lighter? Like, when I heard the word ease, I stopped and I was like, right? And that felt really good to me. So you can take these words and go through them and say, this word is it, but maybe not. And maybe you need an adjacent word. So what you're going to do then is go to thesaurus.com, and you're going to pick the words that you kind of like, unless one's a home run for you, and you're going to put it in thesaurus.com and get more options. Okay. Now you're probably going to have maybe 10 solid options that you're like, oh, I like all of these. Here's where we're going to lean back into our intuition. So there's two things I do. One is I pray. I'm a Christian. So I will pray and I will say, God, like, what word do you have for me? Like, which of these words really encompasses that? And I do believe like that God will give me that, but I like to start with my own vision because, again, free will. Like, I'm a person who I'd like to choose a word that feels good to me, and then I'm going to lean on God and say, like, all right, help me decide which word to pick. And then what I do is I get down to a couple words and I lean back on myself. I learn to trust my judgment, and I grab a coin and I will flip it. And so this is like the silliest thing, and people think it's ridiculous, but it's a really good way to start to lean on yourself, is I will go in and I will flip a coin. Heads is focused, tails is organized. And whatever word it lands on, say it lands on organized, if I'm like, meh, That's not my word. But if I'm like, yeah, that's it, you know it, use this when you go to dinner, right? Chicken or steak, right? Like flip it, go with how you feel, all right? So you're going to pick your word and you're going to ask yourself, if this is the way I want to feel at the end of 2024, how can I become that person throughout the year? So there's a couple of tips that I'm going to give you. One is write a vision for your word. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my board behind me, okay? These are the focus things. So this is what I wrote down. What would it look like if I showed up for these words? I show up intentionally every day. Remember, my word was focus. I stay the path towards my goals. I trust myself, God's plan for my business, and doubt does not live here. And then I can't read what the other one says at the top end, but I put this here so when I walk into my office to work, I can turn around and I can see it. Oh, I lean on the strengths. I prioritize tasks on my plate, right? And I look at this and I say, how am I going to show up focused today? So one is you write a vision statement. Two is you create concrete goals around your word. So if my word for 2024 is ease, right? That's the word I want. What goals am I going to have? Here's a couple personal goals I came up with for ease. Ready? Monthly meal planning and weekly meal prep. And you're like, wait, that's going to make things easier? Yes. I'm tired of thinking about dinner. It's stressful. I don't want to worry about it. So if I come up with a monthly meal plan and I do weekly prep, is that going to give me ease in my life? Yes, 100%. I'm going to have ease, right? I also have some rules that I made up for myself. One is no tech 30 minutes after waking or 30 minutes before bed, right? How is that going to give me ease? Because I'm not going to start my day overstimulated by technology. And instead, I can start my day maybe in a prayer or devotional habit, reading or doing something else. And then also the same before bed. And then I also made a goal around my word, which is around my budget, right? And how is this going to give me ease? Well, I'm going to be spending less money on clutter that comes in my house because the stress of the stuff is huge. And also it's going to help me like grow in financial security because I'm not spending as much money, right? So I want you to go through and one, what does your word look like in action? And two, what goals do you have? Now, those aren't all the goals I'm working on for 2024, but I want to always pick 1 to 2 goals specifically around my word, because if not, then the word just becomes a word. It's just a word that we forget about. I want this word to be in action, and I want to ask myself, how can I show up as that word day to day? The other thing that I recommend you do is you come up with some learning to help you be immersed in the word. So I like to pick books and podcasts that I will, or maybe even a course that I will take that will help me feel this word. And so I'm actually in the process of doing this. So I don't have all of my podcasts picked, but I'll share with you some of my books. So again, I picked the word ease. So what I did was I went to the library app that I have already for free because I was like, well, let me just see what I have on the library app. And I searched in the self-help, inspirational, nonfiction categories, and I found a couple books. I also went to Amazon and I searched ease. Not too much came up. I wrote books about ease, but then I searched simple living because I feel like simple living and ease kind of go hand in hand for me. So I came up with books like The Tech-Wise Family. I mentioned less tech. There was a book I found called Calm, Cool, and Connected. I liked that one. The Art of Saying No. I read that last year. It is phenomenal. I'm going to reread it this year. So I went through our book club book for the Purpose Driven Mom Club. I found a great one, The Emotionally Exhausted Woman. I said, yep, that's what I would like. So I picked some books that I'm going to want to read this year. And then I also went through some podcasts. And so actually, let me see if I can pull them up on my phone. So if you go into your phone, you go into your podcast app. It's just like a search engine, right? And you can go and you can just hit the search button and search your word. So I had hit I think I tried ease, not too much came up. So again, when I was in thesaurus.com, simple living, those were some phrases. So that's why I'm searching that. So I just searched simple living. If you're on YouTube, you can see. I go to shows in my podcast app and a couple came up. Simple on purpose, intentional living and parenting. I was like, oh, let me give that a try. This one I already listened to. Minimalism, intentional living and motherhood. This one I just found, living a simple life with a back porch view, which is very much not what I do, and it's not my day to day, but I was like, maybe I will love this. I very much am interested in things like homesteading and slowing down. This has a picture of a rocking chair on a porch. I mean, come on, that sounds phenomenal. So honestly, I think I'm going to follow. So I'm going to subscribe to these a couple podcasts, and I'm going to start adding them into my learning because this way I can now act out my word in reality. I can act out the word and it can become part of who I am. So what I want you to do today is I want you to think, What do you want 2024 to look like? What is the vision that you have? And what you can do with all of these things is then you make your vision board. I'm not anti-vision board. I think vision boards are cute. But if a vision board is the only tool you have with nothing to back it, it's going to be a piece of paper that sits in a drawer. So I like to use canva.com. You can use a lot of really cool free tools on canva.com. And I like to go in there and make myself a vision board based on what I said. What does ease look like? What are some pictures, some phrases, some words? That way I have a visual reminder. I'm going to print mine out. I'll put it here and I can see it every day. If you don't keep it in front of you, it's easy to forget it on the days where you're stressed. You got some homework today. I want you to think about your word of the year. I want you to think about, and if that's too much, think about the first quarter. What do you want that to feel like? And remember, just because my word is ease, maybe your word is something that's the opposite of ease, something that's a little bit more like productivity and up-leveling. And can I tell you something? In August, I started planning for 2024 before I got hurt. I like to start pretty early. And I picked a word for 2024, and the word was up-level. And then I got injured, and things changed for me in my life. And old Cara would have said, oh, just stick with the word. Like, you need to up-level. You need to do more. It's always do more, do more. And I was like, you know what? What I learned over this season is for me, like, I need to slow down. Like, I'm ready to slow down. I'm ready to calm things a little bit. So there's nothing wrong with words like up level. There's nothing wrong with words like productive. But it's based on you. It's based on your season. It's based on your life. So if it doesn't fit for your life, pick a word that does. Show notes are going to be over at apurpose-driven-mom.com/podcast 387. I would love to know your word. So I'm over on Instagram at apurpose-driven-mom. Send me a DM picture of your vision board. Tell me what your word is. I love to see them and share them. And again, if you're watching on YouTube and you have any questions, just drop them below. If you're listening on the podcast, head over. Come check out our YouTube. You can see it. It's very visual. And you can see what I was talking about when I meant my word. Otherwise, Happy New Year. Have a great 2024, and we'll talk soon.